All right, everybody, welcome in. On a bit of a, not so much a whim, but also somewhat of a planned deal, I've always wanted to start my podcast. Always wanted to start it. It's always been something I've wanted to do. I've always enjoyed talking with people in general, and one of the main things I pride myself most on in my chat, my stream, is my interaction. That's the one thing I want anybody walking away from my stream to take away, is that I actively try my best to engage with as many people as possible, and do it organically. This is the ClayCast. We're going to try and get one episode out every week, failing that 2 weeks, depending on schedule and whatnot. But for the most part, these are pretty easy to do, so we'll do our best to get one out a week, regardless. What is the ClayCast? We're going to be talking about anything relevant to our stream, to me as a person, that warrants a good and interesting conversation. And it's going to be a lot of opinion talking, a lot of opinion sharing, nothing too extreme, don't worry about that. It's going to be mostly a chill podcast. We're going to talk about relevant and interesting stuff. But obviously a lot of my stream knows who I am. A lot of people know who I am. But it's interesting to think about how many people actually know who I am as a person. Who is Claymore? Who am I? What's my deal? What's my history? Etc. So we're going to talk about three things today. We're going to talk about me. I'm going to introduce myself, give you kind of a not so detailed rundown of my childhood and everything leading up to today's point. We're going to talk about streaming, how I think about it and how I kind of treat it. We're going to talk about Tarkov, which is obviously the game I'm most known for and my main game of choice when it comes to live streaming. So, my online handle is obviously Claymore Plays _plays on Twitch. A lot of people call me Claymore, other stuff. But the most personal people will know me by my own name, and that's Tom. My name is Tom, for those people who didn't realize. I am 26 years old. I was born in England, raised in England, and I currently reside in England. I am as one of my other handles go, a British boy or a Brexit boy, depending on your political sensitivity. I currently reside in Yorkshire. Beautiful place, really great people, nice bunch of people over here. Really, we're all very kind of calm and chilled, and we've got a nice perspective of things. Great countryside, absolutely fantastic countryside. If you've ever been to the Yorkshire Moors, if you're resident to England, great place. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The city is rich with history, culture. If you have any inclination of coming to visit anywhere, obviously before or after COVID is hit, or past rather, I should say, definitely consider coming by here. It's a great little place. But I wasn't born in Yorkshire. No, I wasn't born in Yorkshire. My mum was born in Yorkshire. She is Yorkshire born and bred, as was her sisters, her family before her. A lot of Yorkshire blood in my mum's side. But I was born actually in the kind of the outskirts of Birmingham, in I believe the Worcester County. I was born in Redditch. Pretty much a small little town, close knit. Usual stuff. I was not born in a hospital. I was born at home. I was born in my grandmother's house. We had a home delivery, literally. And yeah, I have two brothers, one younger, one older. You know my younger brother by his handle logo by Jimbo. He's done all my designs for me. He's done this for me within a matter of hours. This backdrop here. He's done a lot of my my logos, my designs, my emotes, all that stuff. We were all raised to begin with in Redditch. We all kind of had our own things going on. My older brother back then, he was kind of like a bit of a dark horse. He did his own thing. My younger brother and me spent a lot of our time together, and we usually were spent playing outside when we were very young. You know how most kids do these days. But one thing I picked up on very, very quickly was video games. I've been a gamer from a very young age. My very first encounter of gaming was on my dad's Nokia Snake. It's a classic, I know. That's probably when I got interested in games in general. And for one of my birthdays, I showed a very, very big interest in the Pokemon series. Now I'm talking about the original animated series with Ash Ketchum, all that stuff. I got very, very interested in that series as a kid. And to For my birthdays, my parents bought me an original Game Boy. Not the Game Boy Color, that came later, but an original Game Boy. And I believe my first Pokemon game was Blue. I played Blue. They would catch me way past bedtime under the covers playing my Game Boy, and this extended very far later into my years. But that's pretty much when I became a gamer. That's when I became a gamer. I've always had a passion for it. Always kind of lost myself in the world, maybe a bit too much sometimes. But ultimately, yeah, I was a gamer at a very, very young age. I pretty much, after that point, spent a lot of my time indoors. Whilst my brothers were out being very active, my parents obviously tried nudging me outside and trying to get me to do sports and stuff like that. I was also very interested in nature, anything animal related, bugs, pets, anything related to animals or nature. I was very interested in. So I was a bit of a distracted child when I was younger, for sure. I remember a lot of good things about my childhood, but it all kind of like went a bit sour when my parents, I should say, sorry, they weren't really functioning very well together anymore. They ended up having a divorce. The process was a little bit messy, with a lot of emotion involved. And it affected my older brother and me more than we would have thought. Games ended up rather than becoming a leisure, it became a distraction for me from the reality of things. And my older brother, got in some trouble. Me and my brothers all handled the events in their own unique ways. I don't remember exactly what date it was, but it was an early November when me and my young brother were at home. We were playing games together. My mum was out working overtime because obviously she had to work a couple extra jobs for it now. My older brother was out doing his thing, and we unfortunately had a house fire. We had lost everything that night. Me and my brother and the dogs, we had 2 dogs back then, they were all on hand, we were all okay. A little bit of smoke inhalation, that's all we had. But yeah, we lost everything that night. Absolutely everything was destroyed. There was nothing that could be recovered. It was an electrical fire, so mostly smoke damage, which completely destroyed everything. Obviously, from that point on, our lives were very, very different then. And we were bouncing from temporary accommodation to temporary accommodation, just trying to find somewhere a lot more stable to live in. It was hard. It was hard on a lot of us, especially my mum. My mum was the only one kind of involved with me and my brothers. She became a single mum, and she struggled to not only keep herself sane and hardworking, but also struggled to raise us all. It was very hard for her, but she's an amazingly strong woman for doing that. We're all in good places right now, so I'd like to think she did her job well. So after a while of a few years of kind of moving from place to place, we did eventually find some kind of longer place to stay in York. We moved over to York and stayed with my mum's sister for a bit. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with them, so we ended up moving again. And we kind of hung about in this street for a good few years, probably the longest we resided there. And it was then that I rolled over into the nearby school, Clifton. Oh, what was it called again? Cannon Lee, that's the name of the school was. If you're a resident of Yorkshire and you know of the school, you went to the school yourself. Yeah, I went to the school. I don't remember exactly what years I was, but I left by 2010, if I'm not mistaken, or 2012. I can't remember. It was a very long time ago. School was school, as someone who kind of like was out the loop for a while. School was kind of hard to adjust to. A lot of the like the socializing and stuff like that I had a lot of trouble with. But I did find a few very good friends, and after a certain amount of time, I made more and more friends, and I kind of got into the rhythm of things. School went well enough. Nothing special really happened there. Went over to college and didn't really know what I wanted to do. Didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. Nothing really interested me. Not enough to the point to consider a career, at least, or to carry over to uni. I did pick up a few topics that was interesting to me, and that was ancient history and what else did I take? Psychology was very interesting too. A few other subjects I took, didn't really like, in the end had to drop, but I took a second year of college, over a few topics, and I picked up a few more in the second year. I picked up law because I thought it was more interesting than what was available, and a new course that had come out in my second year called Classic Civilization, which is basically a blend of ancient literature, archaeology, and ancient history, all blending in together. Out of everything I did in college, that topic was probably the most enjoyable and interesting one. I got top marks in my class for that subject, and I left college on a pretty nice note. But it was around this time when I was playing a little game called World of Warcraft. I was neck deep into it. This is a game I was playing for years, back ranging from school, because some of my friends were playing it, and their social circle kind of played it too. And it kind of just became a daily thing. I would go on WoW. I was very, very much invested in it back then. It was around me finishing the second year of college that I got into... I kind of met this group of people, a guild, on WoW. And there was one person that I ended up becoming very, very close to very quickly. And she ended up being the first ever person I loved. I know, tragic love over a video game. It cannot get any nerdier, but it is what it is. After 6 months of just talking and whatever, we talked a lot of us Skype, I believe. Yes, Skype. She wanted me to come over. She lived in Holland, the Netherlands, and I was head over heels for this girl. I was head over heels. She had her own little flat, and yeah. He bought me a ticket, and I remember being very, very excited, kind of waiting at the train station to go to the airport. My mum and brother saw me off. My mum, she didn't want me to go over, because obviously I was 18 at the time. I had no savings. I had no plan. I was going over there for love. That's all I was doing. They were both crying their eyes out at the train station, and it was very hard, but I left and I flew over to the Netherlands, to Schiphol, and I met her at the airport, and we went and began kind of a very important chapter in my life, I think, for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, like I said, I was 18. I know how a lot of stuff worked, and not to mention finding freaking citizenship in Holland was already a weird enough process, considering I wasn't prepared for it. But I did pick up a part-time job, and that kind of helped me ease into the kind of like the culture, and kind of getting a feel for everything. I ended up being able to understand a basic level of Dutch. Never quite learned how to speak it properly, but either way, I could understand it better than I could speak. And it was we lived there for 2 years in total, Holland, and the first 6 months were absolutely magical. We used to live in a little place called Haarlem, which is like a little student town, kind of 15-minute drive from Amsterdam, so you can imagine where most of our nights were spent. And it was great, really wonderful. Me and the girlfriend back then, we'd play WoW together, we'd raid together, it was great, really, really nice. It was after the 6-month mark though that the difficulty started happening. She had a condition which she couldn't quite go to work with. It kind of knocked her out of her uni, like her school kind of deal. And a lot of frustration around that too, because her parents were frustrated with it, the doctors were frustrated. No one knew what was wrong with her. And it was a really unfortunate condition that, regardless of what happened, I hope she found some resolution with. This kind of gave way to a lot of frustration, though, a lot of negativity, and a lot of butting heads and stuff like that. And eventually, what had happened is the place I was working at closed down, and because the flat she owned was technically owned by the school she was trying to go back to, the rent laws regarding that were very, very strict, very, very strict. And what ended up happening is that I was still trying to get my citizenship, which means that if the rent had arrived, or if the rent bill had arrived, and that they wanted to call up and investigate what was going on, if I was there and they found out how long I was living there for, it would cause a lot of trouble. So I did the hardest thing I ever had to do, and that was fly back to England. It wasn't hard in the sense that I wasn't happy to see my family again. Of course I was, but it was very hard because the relationship was still there, the love was still there, but it just couldn't be maintained any longer. Really, really tough. Really, really tough. And then I got a job, and she ended up cheating on me. So, a sour end to an otherwise magical start of a journey. But the time over in Holland really taught me a lot. Really sobered me up. Taught me a lot about living independently and living on my own. It taught me a lot of things. My first love, my first heartbreak. Obviously, that's always an important experience for people. And yeah, well, overall, it was a. If I had the choice to go and back and do it again, I'd do it again. It was hard. There was a lot of heartache, and there was a few periods of depression over there too, because I realized how over my head I was regarding moving over there. But I came away a better and a stronger person for it, and ultimately a wiser person from it. After that chapter of my life had ended, I had moved back home. Mother's cooking, all that stuff. And I decided to pick up bartending as a job. The bartending had been a big part of my working career. Took about 5-6 years. Mostly just because it was so easily accessible at the time. You could go straight from one job to another job. It was very easy to get back into, and I still didn't quite know what I wanted to do with myself. I didn't know if I wanted to go back to uni or go to uni in the first place. I didn't know if I wanted to maybe pick up an apprenticeship somewhere. I had no idea what I wanted to do with myself. But the one thing that always stayed consistent in my life was gaming. I was still playing games. Still. Sometimes to my detriment and to my family's detriment. But either way, regardless of that, it was still in there. Not a lot happened during those years. A few relationships. Some drama. You know, like most years are filled with. We had to move a few more times due to a very unfortunate choice of a landlady we had. She ended up giving us about 3 months to find somewhere else to live and pack up, just out the blue. Yeah, so we had to find somewhere else to live. And a windfall came our way. So obviously over here in the UK, we have something called the Housing Association. And there's a list there where they prioritize families in terms of finding them more permanent residency, rented accommodation, obviously. And we were informed of a new site being built, in which houses were being thrown over to the association first, see what we could get. And this is where me and my family are living now. We lived here for nearly 6-7 years. It's a nice place, nice neighborhood, and we're very fortunate to be. Nice house, and yeah, we found our own place after so many years. Since the house fire, since all that up and turning and all that difficulty trying to find some kind of nest, to say the least, we finally found a place to roost, and it's nice knowing that we have a more stable house. That's pretty much guys caught up in terms of my life. So let's move on to the next chapter. Let's move on to how I got into streaming. To do that first, though, I'll need to go back a little bit, about 2.5, nearly 3 years ago now. I was still working in pubs by that point, and I had picked up a little game called Escape from Tarkov. The only gameplay I saw from this game was walking into my younger brother's room one time. He has the game, he played it before me, and he was doing a hatchet run of factory, and he killed a geared player. And saw a little bit of like the looting, the versus AI and whatnot, and I thought, it's like a cool game, really cool game. And I'd recently gotten my hands on a very decent / basic PC. So I picked up the game and I installed it, and I pretty much did what anybody pretty much does at the beginning of starting a tackle career. I hatchet run a lot. I had no idea how to play the game. I had no idea, but a hatchet run seemed to work, and I did it. And it went well enough. I did actually get some kits, and I did try using them. I died with them, obviously. But then one day, I decided to hatchet run factory, and there's a clip out there floating around out there that I won't be able to show you guys. But, one guy was streaming. I'm not sure if he's streaming these days. I don't remember his name exactly. I think it was like Abdul Muhammad or something like that. I'm not too sure. But I remember running into one of his teammates on factory. He was fully geared, and if I remember right, he had a Silence M4, a Fastened T with a mandible on it. He was basically, for back then in Tarkov, the endgame gear. And I managed to right-click him through the open part of his helmet and his mandible. And it proved to be a very, very funny clip on the streamer's perspective. And then we kind of got to talking a little bit via a direct chat. And that's when they invited me to play with them. Now, this leads up eventually, I promise, because I met someone who not only is a very, very good friend of mine, who also I started streaming with, but also kind of made me think about the idea to begin with. And that was Reevestone. Reevestone TV. If you don't know him, search him up on Twitch. Really cool guy, very good friend of mine. Deserves your follow. So I met him through the streamer. We went to play some customs, I believe it was, and they dropped me a full loadout, and we went and killed stuff. Me and Reeve talked for a little bit after, because obviously he was more trying to teach me how the game worked and whatnot, back then at least. And we ended up kind of playing more and more together outside of that team we were in back then. We hung out in Blacksite, typically, and we met another fellow gamer, / back then he was a streamer. His name was Follow Joe. He's not active anymore, unfortunately, but he's still a very good friend of ours. And we kind of formed a little bit of a coherent and consistent 3-man team. It lasted for about 7-8 months, this 3-man did, before eventually work called Joe away. And yeah. So, we had ran into someone by the name of Kings. If you don't know who Kings is, he's a very, very, very infamous and famous partnered streamer in the Tarkov category. He's a really good, cool guy. His stream is hilarious and funny. Also check him out. But we ran into him on Shoreline, and we had killed him twice. And we kind of... That was the first stream I think I ever really went in and actually enjoyed chilling in there. And it was then that Reeve proposed the idea of us both streaming it. I was a little bit nervous and unsure about it to begin with. I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't even sure if my PC was right for it. I wasn't sure if I had no knowledge. I was making up excuses for myself not to do it because it was something that was very scary and nerve-wracking. But regardless, Reeve started streaming a week before I did. I went live on I always forget. I went live on the 10th of September. That's when I went live. And that was 2 years ago now. My recent streamiversary, 2-year streamiversary, went by us. And it's been a hell of a journey. Regardless of that, though, I went live. Very, very scuffed, as all streams turn out to be. And over time, I met more and more great people. Tarkov had its problems. More problems probably back then than now. But regardless of that, the community was absolutely fantastic. I say was, and I'll explain that later. Everything about the game just felt great. It was a great community. It was a fun game. It was an intense game. Problems aside, it was overall a fantastic new experience that I had in terms of gaming in general. I've never played a game like it before. And no matter what, to this day, I love the game. And me and Reeve played with each other for a very, very high amount of time together. We duoed nearly all of our streams back then. And we just both grew as streamers. We both grew alongside of each other. And eventually we started making more and more connections. We started making more and more friends, either by our viewers or by fellow streamers. And we both experienced pretty considerable growth. We both went full-time. Him before me. And it was a really, really cool experience. Seeing this thing that I had put off for so long kind of blossom out, become something so beautiful. My community was growing in number. More and more cool people were joining us. It was steadily becoming not just something to do in the spare time. It was becoming almost like a profession. I was enjoying doing more and more on the stream. It was turned out to be something a lot more important to me than just something I'd do as a hobby. And so, whilst I was working part-time. Streaming, rather. I was working part-time. I had moved from the last bar job I ever worked into a supermarket job, which was also part-time. And the plan was to work up enough to tempt to go full-time. Now, just to give you guys some perspective, this is within the first year of me streaming. The fact that I was able to go full-time streaming sub 5K followers, not like, and that's just like a number. To me, and still is to me today, it's absolutely incredible. Not many full-time streamers who are around my size get to do that. But my community have always and consistently been pretty goddamn amazing. They have not just helped me, but my family out too. They've helped my mum out. They've helped my brothers out. They've helped me and my family out to lengths that we wouldn't have thought possible. And that became more and more apparent around the mark I decided to eventually go full-time streaming, which was on, it was the 11th of December. Or was it the 14th? The 11th of December, that's what it was. So the 11th of December, I went full-time. And I've been full-time since. And that was last year. And streaming for me is my job. It is my profession. It's what I'm good at. At least I like to believe it's what I'm good at. But it's more than just a job or a hobby or a profession. But to me now, streaming is something that I hold very, very dear and close to my heart. For more reasons than just you guys supporting me financially and emotionally. But because it's opened up a world where I have found so many great people, so many good friends, and so many just great viewers, so many good people. You know, Twitch is often kind of called a toxic environment by a lot of outside people. Twitch is also has its problems on the platform, naturally. But to me personally, the platform itself has introduced to me an amazing world, absolutely amazing world, where good people come together and have a good time. All it is. We're all watch streams to have a good time, to escape from the reality of things, and ultimately, I am happy to know that people do that for my stream. They come to my stream because it helps them get through their days. And that to me is special. That to me is more than enough motivation to continue doing what I do. Even though I still love what I do to this day. I absolutely love streaming. I adore it. And I will continue streaming for as long as I possibly can. No matter what happens in the future. So, in terms of streaming in general, I have been doing it, as I said earlier, for over 2 years now. 2 years and a month almost. And I've picked up a lot of lessons during my time streaming. And ultimately, there's a lot of things that people like to put like an innumerable amount of importance on. And in my experience going through streaming and the trial and error that has come with it, I have determined that there's no trick or way to get successful at Twitch. It ultimately is a matter of luck, a matter of timing, and a matter of who you know, or a matter of the long grind. But what I mean by that is that you can start streaming at a very good time. You might get picked up by a big partner streamer who might give you the attention you need to get your feet up. Or you might be very, very good at this game, or whatever you're streaming. You might be extremely entertaining, and that might bring some attention to your stream. But ultimately, it is a matter of timing. And I think the climate of Twitch at that time, so to speak. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there, streamers and content creators, who do kind of stir up controversy for the sake of publicity. Any publicity is good publicity, as they say. It's a shame that's not what they say, but they say it nonetheless. But what I've taken away from streaming is that what matters most is that you cultivate a positive environment. You're consistent. You're interactive. And you overall just be a good person. You know, the entertainment, that can come as you develop your stream. The skill at the game, that can come as you play the game more. If you're naturally great at video games, like Shroud is a very common example, then obviously use that to your success. Use it. But the basics is that you just need to be aware of the community you're in and leave a good mark on it. Don't leave a negative mark on it. Don't leave a bad footprint, so to speak. Even if it gets you viewers, it will catch up to you eventually one day. And I've seen it happen many, many times during my short, in comparison to other streamers, 2 and a bit years of streaming. Be good people. Just be good people. Just be nice. That's pretty much the main lesson to take away of it. So, what do I stream? What is my main thing that I stream? Everybody, at least nearly everybody, knows me for my Escape from Tarkov streams and content. Escape from Tarkov has always been a game I hold very dear to me, and it's been a game that has just provided a rush and a thrill that no other game really does give me. It is a wonderful niche genre that deserves success. And Battlestate do deserve success. The game has had its problems for a very long time now, though. It's not a game without problems. It is an early access game. It is in beta, sorry, and it has been for about 5-6 years now, cracking on for, I think, 6 years. This game's been out for a while, and there's been a lot of problems that have kind of hung about this game for a while too. And for a lot of people in my position who have streamed the game very, very consistently for years on end, the game kind of catches up to you. The problems catch up to you. The notable changes in the community become more and more aware to you. And eventually it just kind of reaches a point where you just want to take a break. You want to just take a step back. You want to find some other games. And you want to learn to re-love the game you started with. And I think that's what happened with me and a lot of other streamers around the last few months or so. We still love the game, but it's important to take a step back to remind ourselves why we love the game. Sometimes the problems which you may be facing on a very daily basis, sometimes it just snowballs into something that you ultimately can't really emotionally deal with. You take a step back, you rant about it, you get pissed off about it, yada, yada, yada. That's what's happened with me mostly with Tarkov right now. Love the game, but I'm waiting for certain things to be fixed, and I'm waiting for more content as well, naturally. So I'm treating the game more at arm's length for right now. I'm still going to be playing it, and I have played it recently. But in terms of gaming in general, I've mostly been playing DayZ as of late. I play with a couple of buddies, Josh Posh TV, also a streamer, check him out, and Xvin Torres, check him out. And we've been having an absolute blast on DayZ. Absolute blast. We're playing on a modded community server, and it has been nothing but fun and ironic because the game is arguably pretty hardcore, yet it's oddly relaxing, it's oddly chilling, it's just nice to play with friends over time. And the last 3 weeks or so, I've been more and more steadily playing it, and I've had a lot of fun playing it. So if you were a DayZ player, I'm still very new to the game. I'm only like 3 or so weeks in, coming to the stream, and give me some tips. Tips always help. So that's more or less the 3 topics sort of covered. But I want to talk a little bit more about people who want to possibly get into streaming and the emotional kind of weight that comes with it. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people kind of get focused on certain things which can be mentally taxing or draining or anxiety-inducing in my case. As a streamer, if your intention is to grow, become known, and to eventually reach that glorious partnership one day with Twitch, it's a lot of frustration can happen during the journey. I myself have applied for partner once, and I've become extremely close to applying for partner on several occasions. I've experienced rises and dips in growth. I've experienced surges of followers, and then kind of like a plateauing level of followers coming in. I've experienced all this. And as a streamer, it's very, very easy to say that something you're doing is wrong. Something you're doing is wrong. You need to be better. You need to do this. You need to do that. Change this. Change that. It's very easy to kind of like finish a stream, and then once you're going to sleep, you kind of recount the day's events, the stream, and think about what you could have done better. It's very, very easy to fall into that behavior. It's good to constantly better yourself and to provide a higher quality stream, but it's very easy to get wrapped up in the numbers. The average view count, how much you earn during a stream, your followers, your overall views, how many views you're earning on YouTube if you do YouTube too. All of these numbers can really catch up to you. And sometimes it's very easy just to brush it off. Say, it was a weird stream. I'll be fine next time. Other people don't have that luxury. Other people do their best to make their stream as interesting as possible, only to experience dips in growth, and it can lead to a lot. It can lead to a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-anxiety and whatnot. And it's understandable. You want to grow. If you're not growing like you used to, or how fast you want to, it can be very frustrating, and it knocks a lot of streamers off the platform. But it's, in my opinion, how I've rationalized it is that no matter what you do, no matter how fast you grow, no matter what way you want to go with streaming, it's important to keep a consistent environment stream. You want to be known by certain things, right? You want to be known by positive things, funny things. You want to be known for having good opinions on things. You want to be known for being supportive of other content creators. You want to be known for positive things. You want to be known as a good streamer. And that alone can take you where you want to go. At least that's what I believe. I have arguably grown less over the last few months due to whatever reason there may be. But ultimately, because I've swapped away from Tarkov, I have suffered a hit in terms of several different areas of my stream. And I realized something after kind of like leaving Tarkov alone for a while, and it's that sometimes growth shouldn't be forced. Sometimes before you as a streamer experience that growth again, in terms of your stream, you need to do some growing yourself. You need to kind of understand that sometimes it just slows down. Sometimes you have a lull. Sometimes you just need to push through it. Sometimes you just need to remain consistent. And that's what's key for me, at least, consistency. I want to be consistent in my amount of streams per week, the themes of my stream, and me as a person. And I realized that. I realized that if I'm not having fun on my stream, the growth will, regardless, stay as it is. So why am I forcing myself into the stressful environment regarding Tarkov? Why am I allowing myself to sometimes experience the problems in the game over and over again, when I can just take a step back, find some friends, play a game, and provide not just funny and good content to not my community, but also other communities, and ultimately just rediscover my love for streaming games. I'll always love streaming, but streaming games is ultimately what you need to remind yourself to love. You are a game streamer. You need to remind yourself that the passion for your stream will come from the game you play. And if you lose your passion for something from the game you play, that will reflect in your stream. Find something you like streaming, even if it means becoming a variety streamer for a little while. There's a lot of stigma around becoming a variety streamer, because as a variety streamer, it's very hard to grow because you have your thing is in several honeypots, so to speak, in terms of communities, game communities, and genres, and Twitch and whatnot. It's hard to grow as a variety streamer, but sometimes you just need to take a step back, just review everything, and understand that getting stressed and anxious about the changes that you want to make can't come if you keep forcing yourself through it. Sometimes you just need to take a step back, revise your plan, revise your perspective, and then come back to it at a much fresher face. And that's what my plan is ultimately for Tarkov. I will come back to it. But I'm not going to force it. I'm going to come back to it at a good time. 12.8 is the upcoming content patch coming out, and that should come out from the date of this podcast airing, roughly about a week or so. And I will come back to it with a much better, brighter attitude. I'll come back to it, and I'll probably have a lot more resilience for the problems in the game right now. Yeah, I think so. And that goes for anyone else out there. If you have any frustration with what you're doing right now, take a step back, catch yourself, remind yourself why you started streaming, remind yourself where you started from, remind yourself about all the great memories and the great friendships you formed, because ultimately the partner tick will come whenever it comes. What will never change, what will never be achieved, is the connections you make along the way. I have met some amazing people, absolutely incredible people on this way, and this is what I value the most out of streaming, is the connections. Yeah, pretty much all topics covered. I think we've been streaming for about an hour and a bit, something like that. We're going to leave the podcast there for now. The podcast, this first episode of the ClayCast, rather, was more a general introduction and general kind of get to know me episode. Next week's episode, we'll have some more themes. We might be talking about the 12.8 patch, about its release, its launch, how is it doing, things need to be changed, or things I especially liked. And we'll talk about some other streaming-related stuff too, regarding how to handle kind of like your mental health around it, and we'll talk about important topics too. And what I'm going to be doing is, for YouTube, hello YouTube crowd, I'm going to be giving you guys a special kind of responsibility, so to speak. Not so much a responsibility, just something I'm going to ask of you. So what I want to do at the end of these ClayCasts is add a little section where I pull up a different screen and I answer some questions from you guys. And what I want you guys to do over in YouTube right now is, if you're watching this, is leave a question down for me down below about related to the today's topics. Me as a person, keep it clean and sensible, obviously. And anything you'd like to see from the ClayCast, anything you'd like me to talk about. I love talking. I'm a streamer. I love talking, and we have a lot of very, very cool discussions on my stream. So anything that I might find interesting to talk about, leave it in the YouTube comments down below. We'll see if it pops up in the stream. But the questions for me, everything else, definitely check them out, because I want to be answering a little, kind of like a little Q&A section after the end of each stream. In terms of this being a very scuffed first episode, scuffed as hell, I kind of winged everything. No script, nothing. Just a general idea of what I wanted to talk about. And we're going to, I think, wrap up the first episode there. There'll be more changes to the podcast coming. There'll be more updates and improvements to the podcast coming. But that's pretty much it. Of course, before I finish today, I want to really quickly thank a few very special people. And obviously, my community in general are absolutely amazing, and I love every one of them. But I wanted to thank 3 different people, and they are the people over on my Patreon. A big thank you to Hobbit Buster for the patronship. A thank you to Zen1 TV for being a patron. A thank you to Sixero for being a patron. A massive shout out to these 3 people who have dipped into their wallets amongst these really trying times in coronavirus and COVID, and they have opted and helped my family and myself. A big shout out to you guys. Thank you. Everybody, obviously, without going without saying, thank you to anybody else who supports me during these weird times. With that note, guys, wear a mask, social distance, don't do trips you're not supposed to, or at least they're not high priority. Stay safe, guys. It's a very weird time to live in right now, and hopefully this podcast will offer some morsel of comfort in these times. Any suggestions at all for the podcast as well, leave them down in the YouTube section. I am going to be improving this. This is my first episode, as I've repeated. That being said, guys, I'm going to leave it there. We're going to sign off. If you guys enjoyed it over on YouTube, drop a like, subscribe, all the good things. And expect another episode next week. And I will announce the topics of what we're going to talk about on the day. So, I'm going to sign off. Guys, good night. Take care. Stay safe. And peace.